The galaxy had been embroiled in a war so long and vast that even the oldest records couldn't recall a time of peace. It was an endless conflict between two enormous alien factions, each powerful enough to dominate entire sectors of space. Their battles were fought with weapons and technology so advanced that they appeared almost magical, capable of wiping out entire planets with a single, devastating strike. To them, war had become second nature, a brutal, relentless cycle that devoured resources, lives, and hope, but never brought resolution. Meanwhile, the rest of the galaxy, composed of smaller, weaker civilizations, could do nothing but watch in fear as these two titans clashed, leaving destruction in their wake. Humanity, in contrast, had remained a quiet observer. Earth, hidden away on the fringes of the known universe, was little more than a blip on the radar of galactic affairs. The dominant alien empires viewed humans as a primitive species, an evolutionary oddity unworthy of attention. Yes, humans had developed some technology, but it was nothing compared to the marvels wielded by the great powers. To them, Earth was a backwater world, its people irrelevant to the larger struggles shaping the galaxy. For centuries, humans lived in this state of obscurity, unnoticed and unbothered by the wars that raged across the stars. That is, until the tides of war unexpectedly dragged them in. The turning point came when one of the alien factions, Faction A, found itself on the brink of collapse. After decades of unrelenting combat, they had exhausted their resources, lost vast numbers of soldiers, and were staring down the barrel of total annihilation. Desperation drove them to make a risky move. In need of reinforcements, they turned to the least likely candidate for help, humanity. Not because they saw humans as valuable allies, but because they saw them as expendable. To Faction A, Earth was a planet of warm bodies, soldiers who could be thrown into battle to buy them time. Their invitation to join the war was not an offer of alliance, but a plea for cannon fodder. To the surprise of many, humanity accepted, but their reasons were far more calculated than Faction A could have imagined. Earth's leaders saw an opportunity, one that could elevate their standing in the galaxy and change their fate forever. They knew that the alien empires underestimated them, viewed them as insignificant players in a game of cosmic power. But that very insignificance was their greatest asset. No one expected much from Earth, and that anonymity would soon become their secret weapon. While Faction A provided rudimentary training to their new human recruits, Earth's top scientists and engineers had been working in the shadows for years, quietly studying and reverse engineering alien technology. Humanity had been preparing for a moment like this long before the invitation came. They had analyzed every scrap of information they could get their hands on, learning the intricacies of alien weapons, tactics, and strategies. They weren't planning to just fight in the war, they were planning to outsmart their alien counterparts and win it. As the war dragged on, the alien factions continued to overlook humanity's growing influence. But that was just the start. The alien factions dismissed Earth's small fleet with disdain, seeing them as little more than a minor inconvenience. However, they completely missed the real danger. Humanity's power didn't lie in the size of their ships or armies. It was in their ability to approach the fight with a different mindset. While the aliens relied on overwhelming firepower, humans leaned on strategy. Where the alien empires stuck to predictable tactics, humans adapted, improvised, and struck in ways no one anticipated. A pivotal moment arrived during a crucial battle. Faction A had positioned their main fleet near a key planet, confident they were ready for a decisive offensive. Meanwhile, Faction B was preparing to deliver what they believed would be the finishing blow. Both factions were expecting a long and grueling battle, one that could stretch on for weeks or even months. They assumed the side with the most endurance would ultimately prevail. Their assumptions couldn't have been more wrong. As the countdown to battle began, humanity made its move. Instead of deploying their forces alongside Faction A's fleet, they chose a completely unexpected tactic. A network of small, unmanned drones dispersed across the battlefield. These drones didn't engage in combat or fire a single shot. Their mission was purely reconnaissance, quietly observing and gathering data on every alien ship, every weapon system, and every tactical maneuver. They mapped the entire battlefield in real time, processing the information faster than the alien factions could even fathom. Within minutes, humanity had all the intelligence they needed. Weak spots, blind zones, and hidden vulnerabilities were laid bare before them. Amid the chaos of battle preparations, the alien forces were too focused on each other to recognize the intricate web of data being spun around them. Their arrogance blinded them to the idea that humanity, the smallest player on the field, could pull off such a strategic strategic feat, then came humanity's first strike. It wasn't an overwhelming blast of lasers or missiles, nor was it a frontal assault on the enemy fleet. No, their first move was far more subtle. By hacking into the communication systems of both factions, humanity planted deceptive information. Faction A's commanders were led to believe that Faction B was preparing a hidden attack on their rear lines. Simultaneously, Faction B received falsified reports that Faction A had developed a powerful new weapon and intended to use it imminently. As confusion spread, both factions scrambled to adjust their strategies. Faction A redeployed part of their fleet, believing they needed to defend against a surprise attack, while Faction B braced for an imminent strike from a weapon that didn't exist. With both sides in disarray, humanity launched their second blow. This time, they struck at the heart of each faction's critical systems. Rather than directly attacking the ships, they targeted key infrastructure, power generators, communication centers, and shield systems. With pinpoint accuracy, human ships executed targeted strikes right at the core of the alien war machines. While Faction A and Faction B had relied on sheer brute force, humanity employed strategy and precision. Within the opening hour, the alien forces were severely crippled. Their once dominating fleets, capable of obliterating entire planets, were now fragmented, leaderless, and exposed. The humans had seized control of the battlefield without engaging in a direct confrontation. Each action was carefully calculated, every strike planned to deliver maximum damage with minimal effort. All the while, the alien factions remained clueless as to how this was unfolding. They couldn't grasp the idea that the humans, whom they had always dismissed, were orchestrating such a coordinated assault. In their view, it was simply beyond belief. How could a species that had only recently ventured into space manage to outwit the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy? But that was humanity's strength: adapting, learning, surviving. By the time the second hour began, the balance of power had already shifted. The first hour seemed to unfold as expected, at least from the aliens' perspective. They barely registered the human presence on the battlefield, considering Earth's small fleet positioned at the fringes to be insignificant. Their attention remained focused on each other, believing they were locked in for a prolonged conflict. Behind the scenes, however, humanity had been busy. Their first wave of unmanned drones had accomplished their mission, gathering intelligence, misleading the enemy, and setting the stage for the true plan. Now, it was time to move to the next phase. While the alien fleets adjusted to the misinformation fed to them by the humans, Earth's forces quietly launched their counterattack. Every human movement was deliberate, no wasted energy, no unnecessary risk. The advanced technology of the alien factions had made them overconfident, their dependence on predictable tactics leaving them exposed in ways they couldn't imagine. Human forces didn't fight like the aliens. They didn't storm into battle with overwhelming firepower, hoping to crush their opponents. Instead, they struck from the shadows, leveraging precise calculations and exploiting every vulnerability they'd uncovered in that first hour. Victory wasn't about raw strength, it was about outsmarting the enemy. The drones had uncovered critical flaws in the fleets of both Faction A and Faction B. Unshielded ship sections, weakly defended communication hubs, and unprotected supply routes, all left vulnerable amid the chaos. These were the weaknesses humanity focused on. At first, the strikes were subtle, small disruptions that seemed insignificant. A communication array would suddenly go offline. A secondary power system would flicker and fail. Some ships found themselves drifting momentarily as mysterious malfunctions took hold. The alien forces barely noticed at first, attributing these issues to technical glitches or the confusion of battle. But as the minutes passed, the disruptions increased in both frequency and severity. Entire fleets lost contact with their commanders. Shield generators malfunctioned at crucial moments, leaving vessels exposed to enemy fire. Sophisticated targeting systems became unreliable, causing costly mistakes. Slowly but surely, the well-organized battle strategies of both alien factions began to fall apart. Humanity's key to success lay in staying one step ahead. As the alien forces struggled to make sense of the growing chaos, humans continued to manipulate events behind the scenes. Every move the aliens attempted, every effort to regroup or retaliate, had already been predicted and countered. As the confusion intensified, paranoia spread among the alien ranks. Commanders on both sides suspected sabotage, unable to fathom how their cutting-edge systems were failing so completely. They couldn't believe that the humans, so recently dismissed as insignificant, could be behind it. Instead, they blamed each other, further fueling distrust and disorder. Humanity's true strength wasn't in their technology or even their tactics, it was in their adaptability. The alien factions were locked into rigid battle plans, unable to break from strategies they had relied on for decades. But humanity excelled at improvisation. When the situation shifted, they adjusted, always finding new opportunities to exploit their enemies' weaknesses. One by one, the key assets of Faction A and Faction B began to crumble. Power stations that had once been fortified were now left exposed as alien forces scattered to deal with the mounting crises. Small, agile human ships slipped through gaps in the alien defenses, delivering precise, devastating strikes to essential infrastructure. Each attack was carefully calculated, designed to cause maximum damage while keeping the risk to human forces minimal. By the end of the second hour, the full extent of humanity's strategy was beginning to take shape. The alien forces, once evenly matched and seemingly prepared for a prolonged and grueling conflict, were now floundering. Their fleets were in chaos, their command chains compromised, and their resources stretched to the breaking point. Yet they still couldn't grasp how it was all happening. The human forces, despite their smaller numbers, had managed to shift the balance of the battle without ever engaging directly. They had turned the aliens' own strength against them, baiting them into overextending in futile defenses while leaving critical areas exposed and vulnerable. As the alien factions stumbled through the growing confusion, humanity prepared to escalate. The drones, now fully integrated into the battlefield, fed increasingly deceptive data into the alien networks. Commanders on both sides were led to believe that their secret strategies had been compromised, that new alliances had been forged, and that their enemies wielded devastating new technologies. As the second hour came to a close, the battlefield erupted into pandemonium. Alien ships, unsure of friend or foe, began firing on one another. Mistrust spread rapidly as internal power struggles broke out among commanders, each desperate to seize control of the deteriorating situation. All the while, humanity waited, watching the alien factions tear themselves apart. With both alien fleets in complete disarray, humanity was ready to execute the next phase of their plan. They had dismantled the enemy's command structure without ever exposing their full hand. The true assault had yet to begin, but the effects of their disruption were already visible. Alien ships, confused and malfunctioning, drifted aimlessly as their once advanced technology worked against them. The cracks in their formidable fleets were now visible, and humanity was poised to take full advantage of those weaknesses. The final stage was set in motion. Human forces, although small compared to the massive alien armadas, had taken up strategic positions for a coordinated strike. There would be no flashy battle or prolonged engagement. Humans didn't fight that way. They lacked the sheer firepower, but they didn't need it. What they had was precision and impeccable timing. Each human strike was aimed at the most critical, yet least expected, vulnerabilities. It wasn't about overwhelming the enemy with force. It was about outsmarting them. Humanity had studied their opponents thoroughly and knew exactly where to hit to inflict maximum damage with the smallest effort. The final blow was near. Human engineers had developed powerful electromagnetic pulses, EMPs, specifically designed to cripple the advanced technology of the alien fleets. These pulses were precisely timed to hit multiple key ships simultaneously, creating a chain reaction of system failures across the entire battlefield. The result was devastating. Ships that had once been considered unstoppable were suddenly rendered useless. Human forces didn't seek to destroy the alien vessels outright. Instead, small tactical units were deployed to disable critical systems, targeting communications, weapons, and shields. The goal wasn't destruction. It was incapacitation. Within minutes, the alien fleets found themselves defenseless, their ships still floating but completely powerless, unable to fight back as their advanced technology failed them. Panic quickly set in among the alien commanders. They couldn't comprehend how their mighty fleets had been so thoroughly neutralized without a single direct assault. In the chaos, it became clear that humanity had won without resorting to traditional warfare. Their tactics were something the aliens had never encountered before, leaving them utterly unprepared. The alien contingency plans, which had been built around their superior firepower, were rendered useless. Their advanced weaponry was now nothing more than dead weight, and the technological edge they had always relied on had been turned against them. While the alien factions descended into disarray, humanity remained calm and calculated. Their forces moved efficiently, avoiding unnecessary conflict while conserving their resources. The alien fleets, crippled and confused, were already unraveling from within. Humanity simply guided the situation situation to its inevitable conclusion. What made humanity truly formidable wasn't just their technology or tactics. It was their ability to remain unnoticed until the perfect moment. The alien factions had been so consumed by their own internal struggles and technical failures that they hadn't realized the true threat until it was too late. By then, the damage had already been done. Humanity's approach wasn't about brute force. It was as much psychological warfare as it was physical. They had fed false information, disabled key systems, and planted seeds of doubt among the alien ranks. In doing so, they had dismantled two of the most powerful military forces in the galaxy without putting themselves at significant risk. It was a victory of intellect and strategy, proving that the battlefield is won as much by the mind as by force. The psychological impact on the alien factions was devastating. Their leaders, once certain of their dominance, now faced the grim reality they had never imagined: defeat at the hands of a species they had always dismissed as primitive and insignificant. They had never accounted for what humans brought to the table: unpredictability, adaptability, and a relentless drive to win, no matter the odds. As the third hour neared its end, the alien fleets lay in shambles. Desperate to salvage whatever remained of their forces, the commanders gave the order for a full retreat, but even that was a disaster. What had once been an organized and terrifying armada was now a fractured, scattered mess, drifting aimlessly across the battlefield with no chance of regrouping. Humanity's victory wasn't just a triumph of strategy. It was proof of their ability to turn an impossible situation in their favor. In mere hours, they had shifted the balance of power in the galaxy. What everyone had expected to be a prolonged and bloody conflict turned out to be a display of strategic genius. The alien factions, broken and humiliated, would never be the same. Their downfall came from their arrogance, and humanity had taught them the harsh lesson that underestimating Earth was their greatest miscalculation. For humanity, this battle signified something far greater than a single victory. It was the dawn of a new era. They had shown, both to the galaxy and to themselves, that they could stand toe-to-toe with the most advanced civilizations and emerge victorious. They had proven that intelligence, flexibility, and resilience could outmaneuver even the most powerful technologies. By the close of the third hour, the war was effectively over. The alien forces were in full retreat, and humanity stood triumphant, not through brute strength, but through masterful strategy. No one, least of all the alien factions, could have predicted the way this conflict would unfold. What had begun as a standoff between two mighty empires had been transformed into a complete rout orchestrated by a species they had once deemed irrelevant. For humanity, this moment was the culmination of years of preparation and careful planning. They had studied their enemies, bided their time, and struck with precision. As the alien fleets limped away, broken and disgraced, humanity chose not to pursue them. There was no need for a final show of overwhelming force. The battle was already won, and the aliens knew it. Their once mighty fleets, now scattered and powerless, retreated into the darkness of space, unable to comprehend how their defeat had come so swiftly. But the humans had no desire for annihilation. Their objective wasn't to obliterate their enemies, but to assert control, and they had accomplished that with unmatched precision. The aftermath of the battle sent shockwaves across the galaxy. News of the human victory spread rapidly, leaving alien civilizations in disbelief. They struggled to comprehend how a species so recently dismissed as primitive could dismantle two of the most powerful military forces in the galaxy in a matter of hours. The alien factions, now weakened and humiliated, were forced to face a new truth. Humans had become a force they could no longer ignore. For humanity, though, this victory wasn't about gaining power or dominating the galaxy. It was about survival and ensuring they would never be underestimated again. Earth had always been on the periphery of galactic affairs, viewed as insignificant by the more advanced races. But now, humanity had demonstrated not only their tactical brilliance, but their ability to adapt, overcome, and thrive in the face of overwhelming odds. This was the lesson they had imparted to the galaxy that day. Realizing the full scope of their defeat, the alien commanders reached out to humanity, not for further conflict, but to seek terms. The balance of power had shifted so dramatically that the old ways were no longer relevant. Once proud alien empires, having suffered unprecedented humiliation, now sought to prevent any further damage to their reputations. They were left with no choice but to acknowledge humanity as equals, not only in warfare but also in the broader political landscape of the galaxy. Humanity, for their part, responded with measured composure. There were no grand celebrations or boasts of victory. This wasn't about flaunting power or feeding ego. It was about solidifying their position in a galaxy that had long dismissed them. Their actions had spoken louder than any proclamation could, and the galaxy had listened. That recognition was enough. As the alien fleets limped away away into the vastness of space, humanity remained watchful. They knew this victory was just the beginning. They had revealed their strength, but they were fully aware that new challenges would arise. The galaxy was vast and dangerous, and while they had proven their capabilities, the next threat would surely come. But now, humanity was prepared for whatever lay ahead. They had endured their trial by fire and emerged not only stronger, but evolved into a force greater than anyone had ever anticipated. In the days following the battle, messages began pouring in from alien civilizations across the stars. Some were congratulatory, recognizing and respecting humanity's remarkable achievement. Others were more reserved, cautious of this sudden new power that had emerged seemingly overnight. The galaxy, once governed by predictable alliances and power structures, was now in a state of flux, shaken to its very core by humanity's victory. The aftershocks of that battle would reverberate for years to come, reshaping the order of the stars. For the alien factions that had suffered defeat, the future was uncertain. Their fleets were devastated, their command chains fractured beyond repair. They would need years, if not decades, to rebuild from the crippling losses they had sustained in mere hours. But more than the physical devastation, it was the psychological toll that would haunt them. They hadn't been bested by a stronger or larger force. They had been outwitted by an adversary they had long dismissed as insignificant. That kind of defeat left wounds deeper than any physical damage. For humanity, however, this was just the first step. They had always known that navigating the galaxy would be fraught with danger and challenges, but now they had irrefutable proof that they could rise to meet those challenges. Their victory wasn't just about gaining respect from other races, it was about instilling confidence within themselves. They had overcome insurmountable odds and emerged victorious, not through brute strength but through strategy, intelligence, and the unrelenting will to win. In the end, this battle wasn't about territorial conquest or accumulating resources. It was about earning a place among the galaxy's elite, about sending a clear message. Humanity was no longer a species to be ignored or underestimated. They had shown, in the most efficient and calculated way possible, that they could outthink, outmaneuver, and ultimately defeat even the most powerful forces in the galaxy. With the battlefield behind them and the galaxy now watching, humanity's future among the stars was wide open. They had taken the first monumental step into a larger, more complex universe. While challenges still awaited them, humanity now faced those challenges with newfound confidence. They had learned that survival in the vastness of space required more than just brute strength. It required adaptability, intelligence, and a commitment to charting their own destiny. As the remnants of the alien fleets vanished into the distance, humans kept their gaze firmly fixed on the horizon. More battles would come, more obstacles would arise, but now they were prepared for whatever the galaxy had to offer. They had already achieved the impossible, defeating the galaxy's most powerful forces. And in doing so, they ensured that humanity's story was just beginning, its chapters still unwritten, waiting to unfold among the stars.